Fear. The ugly, the bad, and the gift. Written and voiced by Governor Flo. Introduction. You didn't land here by accident. You got called, whispered into, nudged by something bigger than logic. And if you're listening to this in fear, in all its forms, has been knocking at your door, loud, quiet, constant. Let's get one thing straight. This is not a guide to becoming fearless. That's a lie they sold us. Because fear ain't going anywhere. It's not the villain. It's the voice in the hallway, the shadow before the light, the initiation before the rebirth. People think fear means stop, but fear often means you're close. Close to something sacred, close to something real, close to the version of you that doesn't play safe, shrink, or beg for permission. You don't conquer fear by pretending you're fearless. You conquer it by respecting it, by listening, by looking it dead in the eye, and flowing forward anyway. Fear isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. And babe, class is in session. This isn't going to be soft and sweet. It's not going to be perfectly packaged, but it will be real, it will be raw, and it will pull something out of you that your comfort zone never could. You're not here to play cute with your potential. You're here to unlearn, unlock, and flow in your purpose so you can rise in profit, in power, and in peace. So be still for a moment. Breathe deep. Be like the bee. Move with focus. Harvest your truth and keep what serves. This is the temple of flow and fear. We're not running from it. We're walking with it with purpose because that's the only way through. Chapter 2. The Ugly Fear. Where fear first found me. I never used to question it. Why would my body tense up when a door slammed? Why yelling, even if it wasn't at me, made me freeze? Why loud footsteps made my stomach flip like I was being hunted? It wasn't just not liking noise. It was full-blown terror. The kind that didn't wait for logic. The kind that bypassed my brain and hijacked my body. That's the thing about ugly fear. It shows up before you know its name. And if no one names it for you, it becomes your shadow, a permanent background hum, until one day it ain't in the background anymore. As I got older, the fear got smarter. It evolved, turned into anxiety, then panic, then silence. People thought I was calm. Nah, I was in survival mode. Every day, every room, every conversation. I was a grown-ass woman, undiagnosed, unseen, exhausted, carrying depression, PTSD, scarcity mindsets, waking up every day trying to perform normal while my nervous system was at war with itself. And I didn't even know it. I just thought, I'm sensitive. I just thought, I overthink. No, babe, I was scared. Scared in a body that learned to normalize fear so early it didn't know what peace felt like. Have you ever tried to build a big life while your subconscious is still flinching at footsteps? Have you ever tried to heal relationships when your nervous system still thinks every disagreement is a danger? Have you ever tried to chase a dream while your body is screaming unsafe every time you step outside your comfort zone? That's ugly fear. the kind that doesn't just block you, it builds you. And if you're not conscious, it becomes your blueprint. Mine came from a house where walking on eggshells was a skill, where silence was safety, where feelings weren't honored, they were punished or ignored. And what that teaches a child is simple: shrink, soften, survive. But here's what they don't tell you. What you suppress to survive at 6 becomes your patterns at 26, which becomes the things you must unlearn at 36. Because ugly fear becomes a template. It becomes your reflex. It becomes your inner GPS. And guess what? It only leads you to familiar cages. It wasn't until I started questioning it, not just the fear, but the rituals around it, that I began to see the system behind my survival. Fear had turned me into a master of minimizing myself, and I was tired of being good at being small. So I did the work, the hard work, the sit with your inner child and listen to her sob work. I reconnected with the softest version of me, the most innocent one, the one who didn't need to toughen up. She needed to be seen, heard, held. And in doing that, my body changed. My anxiety softened. My nervous system found new rhythms. My brain stopped bracing for war every time life whispered expansion. Fear unchecked becomes a religion, but fear understood becomes a roadmap. This chapter isn't just about childhood trauma. It's about recognizing the altar you've been unconsciously worshiping at. Fear becomes a god when you don't challenge it. So let's challenge it with tenderness, not by erasing the fear, but by reparenting the part of you that inherited it. Stay in flow. Chapter 3. The Bad Fear. The lie that sounded like wisdom. Babe, now I want to be very clear about something. Not all fear is loud. Some of it is polished, clean, respectable, dressed in common sense. Some fear doesn't show up screaming. It sounds like your mother's voice, your high school counselor, your spreadsheet, your 5-year plan. Be realistic. Don't get your hopes up. It's better to be safe than sorry. Bad fear doesn't want to scare you. It wants to convince you. It wants to sound like love. There was a season in my life when I was applauded for being afraid, for being careful, for knowing my limits. People said, "Wow, you're so grounded." But what they really meant was, "You're really good at not risking anything real." See, bad fear is a shapeshifter. It puts on logic like a costume. It hides inside ambition, routines, fake stability, and I just want to be responsible. It's the reason so many people are overachieving while emotionally starving, saying yes while their soul is screaming no, staying with safe people who don't shake their truth loose. Let me give you a picture of this fear. A woman gets an opportunity to do something she's dreamed about since she was a kid. Write, speak, lead, move across the country. something wild, out of alignment with the version of her that's made everyone else comfortable. She says, "I don't know. I'm thinking about it." But here's what's really happening. She already knows what she wants. What she's really doing is waiting for the fear to leave so she can finally say yes. But fear doesn't leave. It just gets more creative. She tells herself, it's not the right time. Maybe next year. I'll save up more. Let me just get more clarity. Sound familiar? That's bad fear, the lie that sounds like wisdom. And you know what's wild? Fear doesn't always stop you from doing the thing. Sometimes it lets you do it, but with just enough hesitation to ruin it. You show up halfway. You perform instead of embody. You undercharge. You don't speak up. You dim. You call it humility, but it's fear dressed like grace. And here's another flavor of bad fear, the one that hides in relationships. You stay with someone who doesn't see you because you're scared no one else will. You pour your whole being into someone because you're afraid of what you'll hear in the silence if you stop performing. You confuse love with attachment, and you confuse connection with codependence wrapped in anxiety. Sometimes your fear isn't, what if I fail? It's, what if I actually rise, and it costs me the version of life I've been taught to cling to? Bad fear keeps you addicted to what's familiar. It says, at least here I know the rules, even if those rules are degrading you. I had to learn that my ambition, that whole keep pushing, prove your worth energy, wasn't always healthy. Sometimes it was a mask that kept me too busy to feel, too booked to break, too disciplined to dream, and I wore that mask like a badge of honor. But productivity without peace, that's just fear with a calendar. So here's what I want to ask you. What parts of your life feel smart but are secretly shrinking you? What have you labeled wise that's actually just trauma with good marketing? And what dreams have you edited into bite-sized pieces because you were scared they'd ask too much of you? Fear is clever, but so are you. And the more you name it, the less power it holds. Chapter 4. The Gift. The signal that means you're close. We've tracked fear through the mud a little bit. We've exposed the ugly, unmasked the bad. But now is time to tell the truth that most people avoid. Fear isn't always your enemy. Sometimes fear is your compass. Have you ever stood on the edge of something good, something big, and felt like your whole body was about to shut down? You wanted it. You prayed for it. You visualized it on your vision board. And then, when it actually got close, your chest got tight, your palms got sweaty, your stomach flipped like it was mid-roller coaster. Yeah, that's good fear. It's a gift. Your body doesn't just speak. It warns, confirms, alerts, whispers. It's always in conversation with your past, your patterns, and your power. And sometimes fear is saying, we're about to do something we've never done before. Not because you're unsafe, but because you're expanding. Here's the science of it. When you're about to step into something unfamiliar, Your nervous system reacts like it's dangerous. It doesn't care if it's a TED Talk or a tiger. It only knows this is new, this is risky, this might hurt. But the goal isn't to avoid that feeling. The goal is to learn its language. Good fear feels like butterflies right before you speak your truth. That shaky inhale before you hit send on the life-changing email. The lump in your throat when you realize you can't go back to the smaller version of yourself. It's not screaming run. It's whispering you're close. You see, when fear and intuition live together, you have to start asking new questions. Is this fear stopping me? Or is this fear inviting me into something sacred? Because sometimes fear is a sacred alarm. It's not blocking your path. It is your path. I'll never forget the first time I told the truth. The real truth, out loud. I felt sick. My voice cracked. My body wanted to bolt. But deep underneath that panic was this weird sense of peace. Like, if I survive this moment, I'll never be the same again. And I wasn't. Because here's the secret. Fear is always present at the threshold of evolution. Always. Think about it. You don't feel fear when you're stuck in a loop. You feel fear when something threatens your patterns, your comfort, your story. And that's what expansion does. It threatens the old you. It makes your ego shake. It makes your play it safe voice panic. But guess what? You can be afraid and still flow. You can be nervous and still rise. You can be unsure and still walk forward. The presence of fear doesn't mean don't move. It just means move with presence. Let me say that again, slow. Don't confuse the presence of fear with the absence of alignment. Sometimes the fear means this matters. Sometimes the fear means you're in uncharted territory. Sometimes the fear means you're finally stepping outside the story they gave you. So don't run, don't freeze. Just listen, interpret, and then move, not recklessly, but with purpose. Stay in flow. Chapter 5, The Ancient Truth. Fear ain't the boss. You've just been acting like it is. Let me say this from love, but also from the center of my spirit's chest. Fear has been running your life, and you've been letting it. You dress it up in goals, you hide it in spreadsheets, you turn it into to-do lists and titles, and 7-day detoxes and brand strategies. But let's keep it a buck. You're still scared. Scared to be seen. Scared to be wrong. Scared to be brilliant and consistent at the same damn time. You think you're playing it safe? Nah, you're playing small. And you got the nerve to call it alignment. But let's call it what it is, babe. It's fear with a name badge. It's fear in high heels. It's fear in a leather jacket. It's fear saying, let me wait for a sign, when the damn sign is your soul screaming, move. Don't wait for the fire when you already smell the gasoline. Stop asking your fear for permission. It was never meant to lead, but you've turned it into a deity. You offer it your time, your peace, your boundaries, your birthright. You get one idea. Fear says, no, no, not yet, and you obey. You get one open door. Fear says, you're not ready. You slam it, and you shrink. That's not intuition, that's idolatry. Fear should be your signal, not your shepherd. It's a message, not a master. And before you say, but Flo, I'm just protecting my peace, let me tell you this. Protection that's rooted in paranoia is still a prison. You're not guarding your peace, you're hoarding your potential. And don't get me started on how fear's got you dressing up your anxiety as ambition. You're not grinding with purpose, you're sprinting with panic. You're not setting boundaries. You're building walls because you're scared of having to be soft and sovereign at the same time. And yeah, I see you. You say, it's not fear, I'm just waiting for clarity. But clarity is often code for, can someone please validate me before I leap? Fear will always try to offer you comfort, but it will never offer you growth. And listen, fear doesn't care how old you are, how educated you are, how spiritual you pretend to be. If you don't check it, it'll have you 42 years old, with a healing crystal in one hand, and a whole legacy still sitting in a Google document. So here's your sermon. You don't need more signs. You don't need another free webinar. You don't need to clear your schedule or sage your room or realign your chakras one more damn time. You need to stop negotiating with your doubt. You need to stop calling fear humility. You need to stop asking fear how far you're allowed to fly. You were never meant to worship fear. You were meant to outgrow it. You were meant to thank it for its warning, and then walk past it like a throne you no longer kneel at. Fear ain't the boss, babe. You've just been acting like it is. But now you know better. So now, you do better. Stay in flow. Chapter 6, Flow Activation. The Sacred Mirror. You made it through the ugly, the bad, the gift. You've looked fear in the face, heard it, named it, and now we let the body catch up with the truth. Because transformation doesn't just happen through information. It happens through integration. So breathe. Let's not rush. Let's listen. Listen to what's moving, to what's softening, to what's surfacing. Fear is loud, but healing is often a whisper. Now ask yourself, with no judgment, just presence, where is fear still running my life, quietly? Not just the fear I recognize, but the fear I've normalized. What dream have I diluted or delayed because I was scared it would ask too much of me? Or worse, that it would change me beyond who they recognize? What would I have done this year if fear wasn't making the decisions? Who would I become? Now place your hand on your heart, if that feels safe, and repeat after me with breath. I am safe to expand. I no longer perform for fear. I honor its presence, but I follow my purpose. I flow forward with presence, with peace, with power. And when fear comes again, and it will, you'll recognize it, not as your boss, not as your blueprint, but as a signal that you're walking a path worth trembling for. Your nervous system isn't broken. Your dream isn't too big. Your timing is divine. You are not behind. You are becoming. Stay in flow. Chapter 7: Modern Magic. You were never meant to be fearless. This is the final chapter. You made it. Not just through this audiobook, but through a soul-level remembering. You faced fear, not just as a feeling, but as a force, a teacher, a trickster, a trigger. And now you know. Fear was never here to own you, only to offer you the choice. You were never meant to be fearless. You were meant to be brave, big-hearted, spirit-led, truth-wired. You were meant to be the kind of soul that shakes and still speaks, one who doubts and still rises, that bleeds and still builds. Let me remind you, playing small doesn't protect you, it just delays your alignment. Confusing fear with logic is how dreams die in spreadsheets. And peace? Peace doesn't come from safety, it comes from truth. So here's what I want you to leave with. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to expand, even if nobody claps. You are allowed to reprogram the way fear lives in your body. And you are allowed to succeed without trauma being the blueprint. This is feminine power, not the aesthetic, not the performance, but the quiet knowing that says, I move when I'm ready, I build with grace, I rise with flow. This is masculine mastery, not domination, not control, presence, direction, discipline with devotion. You don't owe fear another chapter. You owe your future the version of you who decided to stop bowing at fear's feet. You've listened long enough. Now it's time to act. And when the fear comes back, because it will, you'll smile, you'll breathe, and you'll whisper, I see you, but I flow anyway. This has been Temple of Flow, written, copywritten, and voiced by Governor Flow. Ancient truth, modern magic, stay in flow. With purpose, Governor Flow.